Hi everyone, my name's Lucy Kirkham. I'm the module leader for Level 6 IPE and I'm here to talk to you about the assignment and guide you through the brief. So the assignment is 3,500 words. That's 3,000 words in the main body talking about your own simple service improvement idea and a 500-word action plan which links to the capability framework. If you are a district nurse or a master's student studying at level 7, this is exactly the same except that you will have an extra 500 words within your main body. So you'll be writing 3,500 words plus a 500-word action plan. So we want you to develop your own service improvement idea. You might talk about something that you've already done out there in practice. So on a previous placement or in the place that you work, have you implemented a simple service improvement? You might talk about something that you'd like to implement in the future. So if you were perhaps on a previous placement or somewhere that you work and you saw something that you thought was a room for improvement, that you could do something to improve patient or service user quality of care, then you might think about how you would implement that service improvement. Even if you're not on placement at the moment, don't worry, you can still speak to people in the trusts or out there in practice about your idea if you want to make it a reality. We have had students that have gone out there and gone to see people and got their idea implemented on quite a large scale. The idea should be simple, cheap, or even better free, and clearly benefit patients and service users. It might be your own innovative idea, that's brilliant if it is, but it might be something that you've seen in practice already in another trust, another organisation, another area, and you want to implement it in your area of practice. But you would need to discuss how you can adapt and introduce this to make it suitable to your area of practice. You can't necessarily just pick up an idea and drop it in a new area and expect that it's going to go great. So the learning outcomes for this module, it says, the assessment of the module is designed to enable you to demonstrate that you have met the module learning outcomes. Learning outcome 1, critically analyse models of leadership and skills to select and use appropriately within an interprofessional context to ensure positive engagement with all stakeholders and facilitate a positive change within a service context. Learning outcome 2, critically evaluate approaches to service delivery through engaging with practice-based experiences. Justify and employ appropriate strategies for improving the quality of practice, which contributes to the development and delivery of safe and effective services for service users and carers. And learning outcome 3, using a variety of approaches, reflect upon your learning during this module and critically appraise your own performance as a collaborative worker using the interprofessional capability framework. Identify key issues in your personal and professional development for your transition from student to an effective collaborative worker within evolving and complex health, social and educational services. What on earth does that mean? So this assignment is divided into 3 equally weighted learning outcomes. So you should spend the same amount of time on each learning outcome. Don't heavily focus on one or another. How you choose to set these out is up to you. So it might be in 3 sections. It might be threaded throughout the assignment. But you will consider leadership in relation to interprofessional service improvement, and it should also include consideration of co-production with patients or service users too. Your actual service improvement with a detailed discussion around your tools and techniques, so for example the PDSA cycle or a process map to identify the initial issue. You then need to reflect on your service improvement and map yourself against the capability framework 4 times. So how did this experience help you to develop, or where did you identify gaps or limitations to your capabilities? This will then lead to your 500-word action plan. Within the section on leadership, you need to consider things like leadership models. So that might be transactional, transformational, autocratic, laissez-faire, those kinds of things, but it might be collaborative leadership, compassionate leadership, because these are things that are more in keeping with service improvement. You might talk about change management. You might compare and contrast these models in relation to service improvement. So, for example, Model A does not fit so well with service improvement because However, this model is really useful when considering service improvement because, and critique the literature. You might also consider co-production with all stakeholders, so staff, service users, family, think about those kinds of people, and you must use literature to support your discussion. Remember, you need to link this to your service improvement, the leadership skills and qualities that you need to employ. Not everything within service improvement necessarily goes smoothly, and not everyone is necessarily on board. We've got laggards out there that really don't want to get involved in your service improvement. So how will you encourage them to get involved? So to start off with, in your assignment, you might talk about leadership first. You might reflect on an area of practice to set the scene for your assignment. So if you choose to do that, then you'll briefly reflect upon your own and others' performance, workplace processes, workplace systems. So what went wrong? Where were the bottlenecks? Where were the gaps? Where were the overlaps? Where were the patients and service users complaining? What did you see? So consider how significant policy or responses to enquiries and the economic climate has set the scene for service improvement to be everybody's business. Think about some of the literature that we've looked at in class. You should show you recognise the importance of your leadership within this and how both collaborative practice and collective leadership ask you to think about your contribution to the service. Remember, the experience of the service user should be at the centre of everything we do. So if you think of a service improvement idea that just makes things better for one group of staff, then go back to the drawing board. This enables you to build the rationale for your chosen service improvement. So once you've set the scene, you're going to need to plan your service improvement, and we strongly recommend that you use the PDSA cycles to structure this section of your assignment. Remember, you need to collect data that your service improvement is required. This is the first step. We're not talking about necessarily going out there and getting data and doing a big, massive study. You might think about some of the literature to support your argument. You might talk about how you could collect that data. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it, but think about how you would collect that data to support your service improvement. Your plan should demonstrate knowledge and understanding of some recognised methods, tools and techniques of service improvement. So think about some of the things we've looked at in class: Six Sigma, lean thinking, process mapping, those kinds of things. You have practiced using some of these in module sessions, but there are many more approaches for you to consider and research. Investigate which ones are most useful or relevant to your improvement idea. Perhaps try a few out in the initial planning section of the PDSA cycle. Describe how you will implement your PDSA cycle with references to the literature that includes your leadership within the collaborative effort. You should use aspects of the assignment to highlight your areas for personal and professional development within the capability booklet. Then you're going to reflect on this planning process, this PDSA cycle. So how has this contributed to your personal and professional development through the development of an action plan? Reassessing yourself against the capabilities will help you to do this. The experience of doing the groundwork to identify your specific improvement target by perhaps listening to or shadowing service users, carers and staff, reflecting on your leadership approach and others' performance as collaborative workers, reflecting on processes, systems within your services, engaging with service improvement tools and techniques, and planning a project should provide you with evidence of achieving some of the capabilities in the capability framework. We want you to choose at least 4 capabilities to focus on. Use some to discuss your strengths and some to identify areas for development. So this is in the main body of your work, 4 capabilities. And then from this, create an action plan to support your development as a collaborative worker in the future. You're going to qualify soon. Beyond qualification and into employment, how will you continue to develop as a collaborative worker? So the discussion will be in the main body and the action plan will follow. Before the references, before the appendix, it's still part of the main body of your work. And the action plan might look something like this. This is just an example talking about how to plan a 3-course meal. Obviously, yours will relate to the capability framework, This table is a good example of how you might set that out. Throughout your assignment writing, you're entitled to 1 hour of assignment support with your marker. Ideally, your marker will be your facilitator from IPE week, and usually this is, but sometimes on very rare occasions, members of staff are off sick or there are other unforeseen circumstances, which may mean that another member of the current IPE marking team need to mark your work instead. But please let me reassure you that we all use the same marking grid. We work really closely together and communicate regularly. We undertake standardisation exercises and marking workshops to ensure that we are all marking exactly the same. Whilst our feedback might differ because we're people and we might write things differently, your mark will not be different and they will still be using the same marking grid. Your marker will agree the methods of support available with you during IPE week. This might be face-to-face, it might be a group drop-in, it might be online webinars or something similar, it could be telephone or email support. Please see the assignment support guidelines which are on the assessment tab of Blackboard. Don't think that your marker is the only source of support. There's also tons of stuff on Blackboard. You need to look at the assignment guidelines and screencasts, the marking criteria and the frequently asked question page on Blackboard. The support resources on Blackboard are also updated regularly, and there are some fantastic links and documents on there, so please look. The library also provides support around academic writing, increasing your critical analysis, literature searching and referencing, and here you will also find the bridge, which is really fantastic. Just to make you aware of some common pitfalls that students might fall into when undertaking this assignment. Self-plagiarism or paraphrasing, please check your Turnitin. You cannot receive academic credits for the same piece of work, so you cannot lift sentences, paragraphs, sections from your own or other people's assignments. And take care not to copy large chunks or citations from books or texts. And we will also be checking your Turnitin following submission. Please submit your work, allowing plenty of time for any IT issues or things like that. Late submission or incorrect submission can sometimes be an issue for students, but we can help you with this if you approach us in plenty of time. The contact details for the module leader and Melanie Hogan, the module administrator, are on the Blackboard site. Some students discuss leadership in a really general sense. I think you've probably done that in other assignments. We don't just want you to define leadership and talk about leadership in a general sense. It has to relate to your service improvement. Some students forget to include a service improvement, or it's really brief and there's very little evidence that they've used the PDSA cycle. This should be a third of your assignment. Some people forget to discuss the capability framework throughout the main body and only discuss it in the action plan. You should discuss it 4 times to say how you are progressing as a collaborative worker within the main body. Please don't put essential information such as your reflections or your action plan in the appendix. This is not marked, so it should support your main body, not replace it. If you want to put extra reflections or more detail about your service improvement or your process map or leaflets or anything like that in the appendix, then please do, but don't put essential things from the marking criteria in the appendix. And most importantly, read. A lack of reading is often evident in assignments, and this can lead to a low grade. Final top tips: engage with the resources early, attend all taught sessions, negotiate a plan with your facilitator, look at the support guidelines on the assessment tab. Work on the assignment throughout the year and allow time to reflect. Perhaps interact with practice mentors. You don't have to be on placement. They're all willing to speak to you and help you if you have an idea. Develop your ideas, try a few tools, etc. before writing it up. If you've taken up opportunities to act on feedback during the module, your assignment should be your best standard when you submit it. You may find it helpful to discuss your work with other people, but be aware of rules around collusion. If you get confused or unsure about aspects of your assignment, it is best to ask your tutor about it rather than other students. This can lead to anxiety. And finally, you must ensure you submit your work on time in the specified format and through the correct channels to enable your marker to attend to your assignment.